It's a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C. The cherry blossoms are blooming, and they're shining for us, but they are not shining for everyone. Our patients deserve more progress. We need to do better. Together, we want to emphatically make our voices heard to our policymakers that there is a critical need to steadily increase investments to the National Institutes of Health to improve health, spur more progress, inspire more hope, and save more lives. This rally for medical research is historic and really unprecedented, and I hope it'll be the beginning of many in the future that other organizations will sponsor. Never before has so many people in the medical research community and the public at large united in such a public way to express their collective support for medical research.
Now, we're here today because we know that every time Dr. Collins and his team at NIH get a promising new research proposal from one of you or another scientist around the country that has great promise and great potential, every time they have to say no to one of those promising proposals, we all lose.
The job of Congress, appropriators, leadership, every member, is to choose national priorities going forward and put national resources behind them. Ask them where basic medical and health research places on their list. Tell them to address our deficit and debt problem where the real money lies, in entitlements and tax reform, where Americans fully realize that reforms must be made.
So we now find ourselves at a time of huge medical need, but also enormous scientific opportunity, and yet we're pulling back. Our basic science investment as a percentage of GDP is at its lowest in the past 50 years. NIH funding has been flat for a decade and has lost 20% of its purchasing power because of inflation. This has put enormous stress on our scientists who spend more time raising money than doing research and are increasingly being driven from our shores in search of better funding. Most worryingly, our young people are being discouraged from a research career, which will lead to the long-term decline of our scientific enterprise. Make no mistake, it is possible to ruin our scientific community. If we continue on this path, we will kill the goose that laid the golden egg. And now the scientific enterprise, already battered for 10 years, is taking another blow from the 5% funding cut from the sequester. I think it's fair to ask, what do we get for that? Last year, we spent $100 per citizen supporting NIH, so a 5% cut is a $5 savings. But compare that to the $8,000 we spend per citizen per year on healthcare, and you can see that the NIH cut won't make a meaningful difference to our overall fiscal situation, but it will cause real damage to our ability to tackle tomorrow's healthcare problems and health costs.
Given the vast amount of progress made over the last century and the great potential current research holds, now is not the time to waver on America's commitment to advancing cures and treatments for disease. On March 23, 2013, the Senate adopted a bipartisan amendment that Senator Durbin and I offered to the 2014 budget resolution to boost funding for NIH and support our country's investment in medical research. Previously, on June 14, 2012, I offered an amendment in the Senate Appropriations Committee to increase funding for NIH in 2013. These amendments were fully paid for and would have prioritized medical research without adding a dime to our nation's annual deficit. I offered these amendments to send a clear signal to our nation's researchers and scientists that Congress supports their work and needs to make sure that they have the resources needed to carry out their important research.
If we cannot get the naysayers on the humanity of medical research, let's get them on the economics. So we should be spending more on cancer research. And yet, The NIH has lost 20% of its purchasing power over the last 9 years. Since 2002, the purchasing power of the NIH has been cut by $1.2 billion. 2 years ago, only 18% of the proposals were supported, and that is the lowest grant approval rate in NIH history. Boo is right. And now the sequester, the deep automatic spending cuts that went into effect. That means an additional $1.5 billion taken from the NIH, in addition to even more money from the CDC, from FDA, and other critical health programs. That means layoffs, less research grants, and a slower pace for the important scientific research. Life-saving cancer research is being cut because of ideology, and that's wrong.